Time for another Bukkit video. Now, a while back I did a video that got a lot of hits. I was really happy to see how much interest there was in it on how to set up a Bukkit server. Now, things have changed a lot in the Bukkit realm and in even the Minecraft realm when it comes to setting up the server. So a lot of the stuff that we dealt with previously, while similar to what we're going to do now, there's been some changes. There's been some plugins that aren't available anymore, or that they've changed, or just gone inactive. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from scratch again. Not going to install as many plugins as we did previously. In the description for this video, you're going to see links to everything I install and use here. But also, feel free to go into the comments and post about other plugins that you'd like to see me do. We're going to do the basics and the essentials right now, and we'll do other videos with the things that people are the most interested in. So let's go ahead and go open our browser. Let's go to the Bukkit webpage. And again, don't worry about writing down any of these URLs for these addresses. It'll all be in the description for the video. So when we go to the bukkit.org webpage, we're going to download the recommended build. So as the time of this video, it's version 1060. So one note is if you accidentally hover your mouse over these, you can see how it changes up here to that build. So be very careful. If you bring up this page and you just kind of swing by, you might actually change the build. So you're going to want to click on the topmost build, or make sure that it's what's listed up above. So we're going to click on 1060, and then we're going to click on the Craft Bukkit file itself, and it's going to download. Now, normally at this point, what I would do with you guys is I would take you into the Get Craft Bukkit page, and we would go through creating a batch file with one of these particular methods, depending on the version of Java that you're running. And it's also different if you're running a 64-bit machine with a 32-bit version of Java. So to kind of get away from that, what I'm going to do is we're going to go to my website, and I'm going to have a link for this in the description. And I created a batch file called run.bat. And we're going to keep that. So now we've downloaded these two files. So what we're going to do then is we're going to minimize the browser. We're going to create a folder on our desktop, and we're going to call it server. Then we're going to go ahead and copy the run.bat, or actually we'll move them into here. Alright, so now we've basically got the Craft Bukkit module, and we've got a batch file that I wrote that'll actually run the Craft Bukkit with all the proper parameters. So we're going to go ahead and double click it, and we're going to hit run. Now the first time you ever run the Bukkit server, you're going to get this pop-up if you have your Windows firewall turned on. If you have Norton antivirus or some other firewall, you'll get a similar pop-up. But basically it's just telling us that this program, in order for it to work fully, it's going to need to be unblocked. Now if you see this pop up normally on your system when you're not running anything special like we are, this could be a cause for alarm. But we know that this is a Java-based application. That's what Bukkit and Minecraft were written in. So if we're going to unblock it. If we were to keep blocking it, what would happen is nobody on your network or on the internet would be able to connect to your server. So we're going to unblock it. Now you can see it's been generating the spawn areas for the world. Level 0 is the area from the cloud to bedrock. Level 1, which it's doing now, is the nether. Alright, so it's done. Now at this point we have a Bukkit server running. I'm going to go back up here real quick though and scroll up. You can see we had some warnings about certain files, the ban list, the IP ban list, ops file, the whitelist. They're not being found. And that's because when you remember we ran the server, all we had were those two files, the batch file and the Craft Bukkit file. So we stopped the server, and we're going to go back now. Here's those two files I downloaded. But you can see as soon as we ran the server, a plugins folder was created. The world that was generated was put inside these two folders, this being the bedrock to cloud level, and this being the nether region. And then those files that we saw mentioned here, the whitelist, the ops, the band player, were created. So we'll go ahead and run the server again just so you can see. Now when we run it, it comes up much cleaner. No warnings, no nothing. So we're good to go. So now that we're running, let's go ahead and go into Minecraft and check out the server. All right, so here we are in Minecraft. We're going to connect to our server. You can see here we are. Let's try to break a block. See, can't do it. Puts it right back. This is because the area that's set as your spawn has a protection around it. I forget if it's 15 block radius or 20 or something, but if we go just a little bit further away, not quite there yet. Not quite there. There you go. You can see as we got further away, we were able to break blocks. So just be aware that when you first come into the world, if you're not an op, because we didn't set ourselves as one yet, you can't break any blocks at the spawn area. So, but as you can see, we really don't have any commands. I mean, there's nothing we can do. This is really not much different than running a normal Minecraft server. I mean, because we've got Bukkit running, but we have no plugins. So let's go back to the desktop and take care of that. All right, so you saw our server was working, pretty basic. But what we're going to do now is we're going to install some plugins. So let's stop the server. We always want to stop the server whenever we're going to start working on adding plugins or changing configuration files. Because if you don't, when you stop the server, the files you change could get overwritten. All right, so let's go back to our browser. And the first plugin we're going to get is called Permissions Bukkit. Now this is the new default groups plugin. It used to be on my previous video we used a plugin called Permissions just by itself, not Permissions Bukkit. And that was kind of like the de facto standard for permissions. And it was a great plugin system. But Bukkit has started to integrate their own permission system. And basically most of the plugins we're going to see, they're going to start moving towards this. Some already have. One of the plugins I show you uses this new permission system, but some don't. Now the one thing we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here so we can download the plugin. And we're going to download the 1.2 version because at the time of the video, that's the latest version. So we're going to download that. But we're also going to download this program called Super Perms Bridge. All right, so we have those. All right, so we're going to look at those files, and we're going to go ahead and put those in the plugins folder. All right, and while we're here, we're going to grab a plugin I absolutely love. It's called Admin Command. Now this plugin gives you a ton of options. It gives you commands for setting the time on the server. You can make it day or night. You can give yourself items with the order commands. You can teleport yourself or others. You can repair things like your weapons when they get damaged. You can heal yourself or other people. You can kill yourself or kill other people just with a command. Warp around, control the weather. You can go into God mode. You can fly. Just so many things. And this plugin actually supports the new permission system. Now, this link here is to the forum, which used to be the way almost all the plugins were listed on Bukkit. They're getting to a new system now called Dev Bukkit, and you can see that this plugin's already moved there. So we're going to click that link, and you can see here the Bukkit developers have set up a very cool site where each plugin has kind of its own like page with a lot of links to go to the version, descriptions, features, downloads. It can have images. It's got a ticket system where people can come in and submit like a ticket if they find a problem with a plugin or they want to submit a suggestion for a new feature. And it also has a forum section so people can talk just about that plugin. So it's very, very cool. So we're going to go down here to the download. Now you should click on the sponsored link, and what that means is it'll give you the download, but it'll show you an ad, and that way the developer has a chance to make some dollars. We're going to click the normal link because I don't want another ad popping up inside this video. And we're going to see that it downloaded the admin command. All right, so we have it. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to download a plugin called Spout. Now this is what's called Spout Craft, and the plugin itself is called Spout. Spout is a plugin that we're going to put on the server, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Spout Craft is a replacement front end for Minecraft.exe. So this is a whole new launcher, and it actually modifies Minecraft to give you more features. It's got a lot of cool options. It's got options so you can turn clouds off. You can increase the detail for the graphics mode. So like you can have the grass look better, trees look better. It allows you to change your character's skin, your character's name, just a ton of things. And you're going to start seeing a lot of plugins supporting Spout. Um, it's still in development, but it really is nice. But we want to run the Spout module itself on our server because it does one thing that I absolutely love. And you don't have to run the Spoutcraft client to take advantage of this. It smooths out teleporting and warping. You've seen my videos and other people's videos when they're on a multiplayer server and they warp around. Sometimes you get world holes or you get stuck in a world hole. Well, this plugin smooths those out, and I have never seen one since. So what we're going to do is we're going to download Spout, and here it is. And lastly, we're going to grab the Citizens plugin. Now this is that plugin that lets us have non-player characters. So we're going to scroll down here to the download. I recommend you download the zip file of this because it contains all the configuration options. You can download just the jar and copy that into your Bukkit plugins folder, and it will work. It's just the first time you run it, it'll generate all those files that are already in this zip. So you'll get a whole bunch of warnings, kind of like we did when we loaded the Bukkit plugin the first time. But if you download the zip file ahead of time, you can save yourself some trouble. So let's go ahead and look at those files. Let's go into our plugins folder. We're going to go ahead and move these two in there because those are jar files. Now the Citizens, we downloaded the zip. So we want to go into the zip and copy the jar file and the Citizens folder and drag them both into here. We're going to go ahead and close that. Let's go ahead and delete that folder, or that zip file I should say. All right, so now we've got the Super Perms bridge and the permissions. You got admin command, citizens, and Spout. So we've got all those loaded. So let's go ahead and try running the server again. And you can see all the plugins loaded. We have the Super Perm bridge initialized, the citizens, the permissions bucket, the admin command. Everything came up fine. So we have a fully functional server at this point. Now these plugins are not necessarily configured. There are some tweaking that can be done. But let's go ahead and go over to our Minecraft client and check out this. All right, so let's log into our server. All right, so let's do two things. Let's try to walk back to our spawn point, which I think was right around here. So you can see we can't break blocks still, and that's fine because we're not an op. We can't break, and I should say we can't break blocks around the spawn point. But let's get away from the spawn point and just come over here. And before, remember, we could break blocks once we got away from the spawn point. But now you can see it says you do not have permissions to build here. Well, that's because we've loaded the permissions plugin. And by default now, a user who isn't given any permissions, in a sense is given just default permissions, can't really do anything. They can't build. And that's great to protect your server. And you can change that. But so you can see, we can't build now. Let's try one of the inventory commands. Let's try to order an item. Let's try to order smoothstone. You can see we don't have permissions to do that. Well, let's try to create a NPC. We can't do that. So you can see we have no permissions for anything. We're pretty limited. Now we can make ourselves ops, and that will help in some cases. But we're going to go ahead and work with the permission system next. Let's go back to our server. All right, so we saw that the plugins were active, but we didn't have a very good setup when it came to permissions. So let's go ahead and stop the server because we're going to start working on some configuration files, and we don't want to have the server running. Let's go into our plugins folder, and I'm going to leave it up to you guys, or at least into a later video if you guys need help. There really is command options that can be set up, configuration options, I should say, for some of these plugins. But we're going to worry about permissions only right now. So we're going to edit this. Now, I use Notepad++, and I know some people told me, oh, you can just use Notepad, oh, you can just use WordPad, or whatever your favorite editor is, and you can. But I like this one because it supports a ton of different file formats, and it highlights things in different colors. And there's going to be one feature that it has that absolutely makes editing these YML files that you're going to be editing for many plugins, and it helps keep things simple. But anyway, let's just talk about this setup. You can see that there's a users group, and there's a category called groups. So we have an actual users. This is where it would put all of our usernames. So right now they have a default name of Conspiracy Wizard. But I'm going to put my Minecraft account in there. And then it gives you like the ability to give yourself specific permissions. I'm going to just get rid of the sample one because we don't need it. And this would be useful to put things underneath this permissions thing here if you had specific permissions you wanted to give just one person. I don't really do that very often. I like to give permissions to a group, and then I put people in a group. But you can see here my account has no permissions given to it directly, but I am put in the admin group. And if we go into the groups thing here, we can see the admin has permissions for all of the permission plugins permissions. And it inherits any permissions from the user group down here. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this worlds because it's really not needed. If you have multiple worlds, you can give permissions to groups or people based off the world you're in. An example for that would be when we do our normal videos in our main world, people are allowed to order. People can do a lot of different things with a lot of cool plugins. So they have a lot of permissions that are available to them in the crew. When we go do a village video or we go do like a quest, I basically take permissions away from everybody so that there's no chance for anybody to order, to go into God mode, to fly. Everybody's on a level playing field. So you could use that feature for that. And I do it that way for our server. So anyway, you can see here we basically have three different groups. We have a default group, and that's what everybody will be put in, assuming they log in with a name other than mine. Because right now we've only set up one user. So if somebody like Lizzie would log in right now with this configuration file, her name's not in this category, so she would become a default user. And her only permission would be that the ability to build is not set. And that's what we saw just a little bit ago in the video when I tried to break some blocks outside the spawn area. We got this message here. Now you could change this message to say something else too if you wanted to. You know, pick your favorite witty phrase and put in there. Now we could also come in here and we could add, let's say, Lizzie, and we're not going to give her any permissions directly, but we're going to put her in the group user. All right, now before we go any further with that, you'll notice that Lizzie's name, permissions, groups, and users all in red. And this is why I like to use Notepad++. What it is it's telling me that this is invalid because in a YML file you can't use the tab key. And you can see here I have a tab between the leftmost column and the first letter of Lizzie's name. Here I have two tabs going across. You have to use spaces. So if I was to come in here and hit space, get rid of the tab, you can see that just went black. Space all the way out to here, get rid of the tabs. So it's letting you know that you're putting tabs in when you shouldn't. But there's also another cool feature. You can come up to the language settings, preferences, and go into the language menu. And you can see here, it'll tell you how many spaces a tab has, but you can say replace by space. So now, whenever I use Notepad++, I will never put a tab in a file. if I come down here and say tab, 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 it's spaces. It'll never let me put an invalid tab in. So that right there is worth its weight in gold, because you're never going to put a tab in and then when you start running plugins, start getting errors about problems in your configuration files. So anyway, let's get back to the Lizzie's permissions. So right now Lizzie has no direct permissions given to her specifically, but she is put in the users group. And if we come down here to the users group, one of the permissions it gives her is the permission to build. So now Lizzie could log in and she could break blocks outside of the spawn. Still couldn't break them inside spawn, but she could break them outside the spawn. And then she would inherit any permissions from the default group. And you can see the default group only has one permission, and it's actually taken away from them, and that's the ability to build. Now you might think, okay, well hold it, she's got the ability to build here, but she's got not the ability to not build here. So how will that work? Well, this is her direct permission. She is in this group. If an inherited permission conflicts with one already given to you, the inherited permission will not take into effect. So she will be able to build. This permission would basically be ignored because this is a higher priority since it is in the group she is actually in. All right. So if we want to give ourselves the permissions for the admin command, because as you saw, we couldn't do the /I command. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to the admin commands page. We're going to click to their dev bucket page, because remember, they're on the new dev bucket system. And we're going to click on special permissions. Before I show you that, I'll show you one thing. Like here's a lot of the common commands, like time command. Now you can see if we want somebody to be able to use the time command or the /day command, we can give them that permission. So if you give somebody the admin command.time.set, they can use the time command. If you give them the admin command.time.day, they can do the day command. Or you can give them the admin command.time.asterisk, and that'll give them all of these commands. Likewise, we can go into, say, the item commands, and these are all the things for ordering and everything. And if we scroll down here, you can see there's a ton of item commands for all the different item commands. Or you can give this permission to give them all. So that you can see there's a ton of different things. There's time, item, player, teleport, weather, warp, mob, server commands, message of the day, and news commands, all kinds of stuff. But if we go to the special permissions, we can see that there is an all-encompassing permission that's called admin command.asterisk, and that grants you all commands, everything. So we're going to copy that because we want that command for our admin accounts. So we're going to come in here, we're going to go to here, we're going to paste that in, add a colon, true. Now remember how I told you that some plugins support the new system, some don't. Admin command supports the new system, so we can do this admin command.asterisk colon space true and give all admin commands for that plugin to anyone in the admin group, which would be me only right now. We're going to save this. So we've given ourselves all of the commands, but let's say we want to allow our users like Lizzie the ability to order. So let's go into the item commands and see if we want Lizzie to be able to do the /I command, we need to give her this permission. So let's copy that. And let's go in here, and for the users, let's go ahead and add this permission and save it. So now Lizzie has the ability to add, or anybody we put in and give them that users group. All right, so we've done the bucket, we've set up permissions, and we've done permissions for admin command. Spout, we've loaded, which doesn't need any configuration. And now we have citizens, which didn't work. So let's go to the citizens plugin. Now citizens is a little different. You're going to see here, right here in red text, they are getting rid of permissions support, which is the old plugin that I talked about we use. They're going to start using permissions bucket, but they haven't added that support yet. So we still have to use the old permission system. And in order to do that with Permissions Bucket, we need to add the Super Perms Bridge support, which we did install that plugin. So we have all the things needed to let this older plugin that hasn't been updated yet still work. So what we're going to do, they've also moved to Bukkit Dev, so we're going to go to their page. We're going to go to their wiki. And then we're going to scroll down, and here's commands and permissions. Now again, here you see citizens dot, all these different permissions for all of these different commands. Quite a few commands. But what we're going to do is, since we're going to use the super bridge, the super perm bridge, we're going to copy citizens dot. We're going to go in here, and we're going to say paste citizens dot asterisk colon space true. Now you would think that would work, but remember we said citizens doesn't support the new system, and it only works with the old system. So what we have to do is we have to put in front of the citizens dot super perm bridge dot and then citizens dot asterisk. So basically what happens is when the Bukkit permissions Bukkit plugin reads through this file when we start our server, it's going to see super perm bridge and say, oh, okay, citizens dot asterisk is an older style permission system, so we're going to bridge citizens dot asterisk into the new permission system. So basically this allows us to use the citizens plugin and get all of those cool features. So we're going to go ahead and save it, and now we're done. And what we're going to do is we're going to back up. We're going to go ahead and run the server. Let's see if everything comes up clean. Everything's loaded. So let's go ahead and go back to our server and see how it's working. Alright, so now we're back in Minecraft. We've updated the server with a bunch of the plugins, and we've configured permissions. Alright, so here we are. You know, obviously we can break blocks because we are an admin. Let's just try to order some smooth stone. So now we can order. And let's try create an NPC. We created notch. Let's try the fly command. Now, you can see we got disconnected because we did not enable flying on the server. We'll go back to that in a minute, but we won't worry about that right now. Alright. We can go into God mode. So you can basically see we've enabled the admin plugin to give us all options. We've enabled the NPC plugin to give us all options. And we've set up the permission system. We've added the spout plugin so that we could warp and teleport much cleaner than we might not be able to with the normal system. We have a functioning server. We can go in and start adding more users. We can set up new groups, whatever we want to do. So we're going to go back to the server real quick. I'll show you a few little last things. So as you can see, the plugins all worked. We were able to order, to fly, go into God mode, create NPCs, and everything worked great. So we're going to go ahead and stop the server here real quick, and I'm going to show you one thing. If we go into the server properties and edit that, you can see the allow flight is defaulted to false. So if we set that to true, we can now use the flying mode and not get booted out each time we start flying. So let's just quickly run through this. We've installed Craft Bukkit. We've downloaded my batch file. We ran that. Our world was created plus all the files. We went into the Bukkit website. We downloaded the permissions Bukkit along with the Super Perms bridge. We downloaded the admin command, which is an excellent plugin. I really recommend that one for you. We downloaded the spout plugin, which helps with the teleport smoothing. We downloaded the citizens for NPCs, and then we went ahead and we configured our permissions to allow our admins to use a bunch of these tools, and got everything working fine. And we had to use the Super Perms bridge in order to get the Citizens plugin to work. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. And what I'd like to see you do is, post any comments you have. If you have some requests for some other Bukkit plugins, let me know, and maybe I'll do like another video with like 2 or 3 different plugins. And just keep releasing a few here and there. And as always, I will update and make a new video if something happens with Bukkit, or the way you set up Bukkit, which greatly changes the way things work. And I'll also put a link in the description to this complete setup, and you can download my world, my configuration files, and literally you could basically just take this and run it. All you'd have to do would be to come in here into the configuration file, edit it, and replace my name with your username. So hopefully you enjoyed that video, and as I said, in the description you'll see all the links, but go to the comment section and let me know what you think and what you'd like to see in the future.